What's up, guys? Welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today we're taking a look at my latest song challenge. This is Orchestral EDM, and I'm just going to jump right in. So we start off in the creative process. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of tracks, really, only 18 tracks going on. And so I started off, as I almost never do, with a loop. Now, I don't recommend that you use loops, and I typically don't use them either for, like for drifting, which you guys heard last week. Every element you hear was entirely created by yours truly, no loops involved at all. And it's the thing about loops is that while they can be awesome for inspiring song ideas, they can, for one thing, they can be very limiting. And the big thing is that they can very easily become a crutch. And you can't come up with song ideas without them, or you rely on them to fill gaps in your skill, and I don't recommend that you do that. It's very easy for them to become a crutch, and you'll never get really, really good if you keep using loops as a crutch. So don't do that. But if you use them sparingly and kind of turn them into their own thing and use them to inspire song ideas, it can be a cool thing. And I've only used this about twice, this being like the second time, the first time being on Empty, the depressing EDM challenge. So the loop is this element right here. Pretty simple. And I heard that and I immediately thought, well, that's obviously big room. And so the day I was working on this, I was kind of scrapped for ideas, and I had this loop in my folder for a while. I was like, man, I'd love to turn this into I'd love to hear this as a big room track, even if it doesn't go anywhere, as I may as well just work on something, right? So that's what I did. So I have that. And this kick is composed of two different kick samples. This first one, and this one. And these are both playing a G, because that's the key that the loop is in. So we got one key thing to notice is how this one right here, it lacks a lot of transient, and I don't remember if I used a transient shaper on this or not. If I did, I rendered it down to audio, so you won't see it. But anyway, either way, yeah. This one adding the attack, and this one adding the bass and kind of the punch. And this one also, I have the phase flipped, which is, if you're layering kicks, always a good thing to check for phase. Because if they're out of phase, you're actually defeating your purpose because you're making it less punchy. But if they're in phase, it gets more punchy, so definitely check that. So I got it in phase, so now we got... So at this point, I was like, hey, this is cool. And I was just kind of messing around, really, and ended up pulling up this orchestral drum kit. It's one of the built-in virtual instruments in a Logic Pro. Logic Pro has some amazing virtual instruments built in. One of the reasons I love this program so much, one of the many reasons. And so it's got all these, all a zillion other sounds that are all these kind of orchestral sounds. And I'm not even sure what inspired me to pull this up, but I did, and played in this little snare part. Kind of marching bandish. So we got... Split that in with my MIDI keyboard, and I hear that and I go, oh, this is going somewhere, because I remember one of the song challenges I had been wanting to do for a while was do an orchestral and EDM kind of genre mashup, and I was like, this could go somewhere. So I got excited and just started layering stuff like crazy. Well, not like crazy, but I started layering stuff. So I added in a gong. And then finally, this little percussion part. Once again, this is the orchestral kit, same kit, and I've just played that in with the MIDI keyboard. Because I'm a drummer, for those of you who don't know, and that playing stuff in on a MIDI keyboard versus programming it with a mouse comes very, very naturally to me, and I come up with a lot of cool percussion parts just by playing it in and then just quantizing it to get that kind of electronic sound. So because it's really hard to play in time on a MIDI keyboard. So we got that. All right, so that's basically it for the drop. Oh, and then we got, in the second half of the drop, I got a triangle, kind of acting as a ride. And then this little clap thing. And that click with a nice little reverb on it. Nice little room reverb. So that's the basis of the drop. So at this point, had my drop, and I was like, well, I obviously can't, I need more than a drop. And so what I did, which is a good technique if you want to, you know, if you have a nice 8-bar loop going and you want to develop it into like another section of the song, I duplicated everything except for the melody loop. So I basically had percussion and a kick going. And then started bringing in more instruments. So I started off with this bass, I believe. And just played it on my MIDI keyboard, just messing around. You know, I knew what key I had to work in because the loop dictated that. So really just played around until I came up with something that sounded cool. And then, so we have got that. And on top of that, I layered this. No, this came first. Sorry. I'll cut that out. All right, so now I come in, and one of my favorite things ever is staccato strings. So I have the percussion going and the drums going, and then I add in this element. You know, playing the triplets, very kind of a Pirates of the Caribbean sort of sound, which I absolutely love the soundtrack to Pirates of the Caribbean. And that kind of had a lot of influence on some of the sounds here. Hans Zimmer had an influence on a lot of sounds here, actually. So we got that. And then on top of that, I layered this bass. Just playing around on my MIDI keyboard until I came up with a little kind of melody thing that sounded cool. And on top of that, I layered a trombone. And then on top of that goes the violin playing that kind of lead part. Layered that with the harp. And you hear how that fills it out nicely, especially the trombone. I love that sound. So sick. That's basically it. And the rest is just down to arrangement, which it's pretty simple, you know, just dropping elements in and out and a lot of automation. And I was almost concerned that it was a little too simple, but I think it works. I think it works, especially since I didn't try to make the track too long. And then other than that, we got this rise. And the essential for any big room house track, the Prada snare, which is used in pretty much every big group house track in existence. If you were unfamiliar with that, now, if you ever listen to Big Room House, you will notice that in all of the songs. You're welcome. Alrighty, that's it for today. Let me reiterate this once again. Be very careful when using loops. Use them very sparingly, and if you do, use them kind of minimally in your track, as I did here. You know, the loop kind of started the track, but then most of it kind of took on a life of its own. This was more like kind of the springboard into the rest of the track and not like the central element, which I think is important. So be careful how you use loops. Don't let them become a crutch. And I hope the rest of this was interesting, and if you produce music, helpful and gave you cool ideas. And you can subscribe for more music and for more Audio Geek videos. And I will see you guys next week. Peace out.